All right, I'm here at RKM Training with Rob from McDojo Life, and I got a question for him because I've got a lot of content on my channel that is talking about bad martial arts and crappy moves and things you shouldn't believe in, bad concepts, yada yada. And Rob from McDojo Life, obviously, you probably heard of him, does a lot of videos about bad martial artists.
For sure.
And so I want to know, why do people follow idiots?
So that's a very broad question, and I wish it was a much more specific question.
Let me narrow it down like a little bit. So is it more of like quirks, infallible human brain, like make them see something like, oh, magic, and I want to follow that? Is it a cult of personality thing where it's really about the instructor sucking them in? Or do people just like want to know the secret and just make up dumber and dumber secrets just so they know it? Like, what is going on in the human brain that makes them believe things that you or I can look at it at a glance and be like, that's stupid?
To think that you're smarter. Are you a con man? We'll start it that way.
Wouldn't you like to know?
But like for real, you're probably not a con artist, right? So that means you don't spend a lot of time researching and implementing tools that a con artist would do. So to think that you're going to outsmart a con artist is the first mistake.
So what you and I look at and see, that's stupid. What I'm seeing is a stupid martial art move, but what's actually happening is a good con.
Yeah, it's a good con.
So it's like an apples to oranges sort of thing. You're worried about the wrong problem.
I'm looking at it
and I think a lot of people do look at it differently, because when you look at a martial arts cult or fraud, people automatically give it a lot of the same titles that are already kind of, I guess you'd say, hyped up through Hollywood and common misconceptions in pop culture, right? So when I walk through the door as a brand new student, right, the only things that I'm carrying with me are my preconceived notions and my own personal experiences. That's it. And a lot of times when you go into a martial arts studio, the first thing that you're going to do is automatically give the person respect. And you're going to think that they have integrity and that they have honor and that they have discipline. That's not necessarily the case. That's what you've made up. And so you've already put this person in charge of you by walking in the door and saying, you know more than I do, teach me. So I've automatically put you on a slight pedestal anyway, because I have to submit to you in a way. When I go to a class, if I didn't do that, I would be the head in the class. I'd be like, that's bullshit. It's never going to work, and then I get kicked out, right? But you don't do that. You have to have a little bit of trust into the person that you're going to.
And just walking into someone else's dojo, that's a power dynamic.
And also, it's very stressful to somebody who might not have ever been. And so we look at it as, okay, well, we're martial artists. We can look at it from a martial arts lens, but that never goes away. It's almost like you can't take that lens away once you've been there. Well, somebody, you can't recreate you not being a martial artist ever again.
So does this mean it's not really the martial art itself and people being attracted to the crappy martial arts, it's how those martial arts are sold? So it's the person behind the martial art selling it more effectively?
It's deeper than that. Take the word martial art out of it.
Okay.
So don't even look at it like a martial arts perspective. You or I or anyone else in this room can be conned.
Right.
The people who are like, and this is going to kind of freak you out, but when we did our documentary about martial arts frauds, we talked to several different psychologists, and they all universally said the same three things about people falling for con artists, or cults, specifically cults. So one, people who are most likely to fall into cults are well educated. Why? Because they're indoctrinated into education. You started off in preschool, and you did preschool, and then you did school, so that was another 13 years. And then you decided, okay, now I'm going to be a doctor. That's another 8 years. So your entire life has been education. So what do people do when they get done with their education? They continue their education. So that's why you see people like a Gary Vee does a seminar, and he's got like a slammed full. Are those people uneducated? No, they're very educated. They want more education. And so what happens is when people are looking for more education, they're looking for teachers. Another way of putting that is they're looking for a guru. They're looking for that guy, right? The next is people who have money. Broke people don't typically join cults. Why? They can't afford it. They can't afford it. What do you do when you can't afford something? You go to work.
People can't steal your money if you don't have any money. That's the secret.
Also, you don't have time. What are you doing? Like you're a single,
trying to survive.
You're a single parent and you have a kid, and you don't have time to go to that workshop. You don't have the money, or you're trying to work and pay your bills, and that's it.
You're working 3 jobs.
And so the people who have money, what do? You spend it on things. And the more money you have, the more stupid things you buy. Like, just think about like the most eccentric people in the world and what they buy. Very dumb things to us because we don't have that kind of money. I'd be like, I never spend it.
It was so stupid that these people would sign up for these retreats that are like weird woo stuff, or these martial arts seminars that like, shouldn't you know better?
Yeah.
It's like, but
have you ever seen a punch thrown? Like,
Well, and even look at the type of people who are trying to sell you those type of things. Man, I went to this retreat and it was so amazing. And where do they live? They have this beautiful penthouse apartment in New York, or they're living in this beautiful neighborhood in San Diego, right? Places that cost a lot of money to live, right?
Is it also something where like the fraudulent instructors try and attract those more successful looking people and advertise those like these are the people in our organization?
Before we go into that, the third out of the three is people who don't think they can't fall to a con. But so imagine if you put your hand on a hot stove and it burns you, what would you never do again?
Touch the hot stove.
Put your hand on a hot stove. You know what that feels like. But if you think you know better than a professional con artist who has spent his entire, he or she, I'm not saying it's all dudes, but let's imagine that person has done absolutely nothing but learn and implement technique on how to con people, and you think you know better than that, you're wrong. That's like the dude coming in off the street going, I street fight, I can take all y'all. It's like, where have you trained? Oh, the streets. Like, okay, well, you probably sign the waiver. We already know how this is going, right? It's because that ego, for some reason, just allows people to think that they're better than that. We're not. Any one of us could be susceptible to a con artist or a cult at a specific time in our life. Like, what is it that you're missing? And then all of a sudden this person comes by and they recognize it because that's what they do. They profile you, and then they walk up and they go, okay, this person needs that. And a great example of that is Diego Sanchez.
Yes.
Diego Sanchez is going through a very rough time in his life, and this guy, this Joshua Fabia, yes, I'm calling Joshua Fabia a con artist, and I would love to fight you, Joshua Fabia. I'd kick you in your face. But anyway,
there's a long line of people that would be willing to kick Joshua.
But that is a guru. That's a guru. And so what he did was he recognized the weakness and he tried to give Diego what he needed at the time, which in all honesty, from what I could tell, was a friend. He just needed somebody to just say, hey man, I got you, I'll be here for you. Meanwhile, his real friends are saying, dude, you can't be up and being stupid, because real friends keep you in check sometimes, and you might not necessarily need to hear that or want to. You need to hear it, you don't want to hear it, but this guy's giving you what you want to hear, and he kind of just grooms him. Next thing you know, he's hanging upside down wondering what's going on wrong with his life, while his guru's punching him in the side of the head saying it's good for him, you know. And so it's a steady trickle. It's not like a flood. Like, in order to con someone, you have to set it up. You have to set up the con. You can't just go to the con. Like, if I go to you as a mechanic and my car is always busted, I would not continue to go to you as my mechanic. I would go, hey man, I keep taking my car to this guy, what do you think? And then I get other opinions of other people, and if I have 100 mechanics telling me that you're f***ing my car up, I'm going to trust the 100 mechanics, not the one you. And so people do that. They automatically give so much power and so much, I guess you could say, submission to the instructor, and you don't typically do that with a lot of other things in your life.
Yeah.
But martial arts has kind of been made this bigger thing than it really is. It's really a smaller thing.
So I like what you're talking about, where like it's the salesman, it's the con man, and people kind of get attached to them and build rapport. Because a lot of times if I criticize a martial art and like I point out things that don't work in it, the comments are not, oh no, this move totally would work because this. It's, well, the instructor did street fights and did this background. He's a really great guy if you meet him. Kind of, it's all about how good that instructor is and not about the actual moves. Now, what about things where it's mainly through the internet? Like some guy saw this martial art on YouTube and he's like, that's freaking great, and he totally studies it. He's never met the guy, this guy's never profiled him, this guy's never talked to him, but he gets sucked into a martial art that you or I having done combat sports would look at and say, that's not gonna work.
The con wouldn't happen then, that would be the ad. So basically in martial arts business, that would be called lead generation. So you put this out as an ad and the person looks at that and they go, okay, I want to try that out. And then the next step is they have to contact you, set up a time and a date for them to come into your facility. Well, that's a part of the con. It's like, okay, I hit you with it. And we talked about this in another video about like demos and how they're really flashy and cool, but they don't necessarily have to work. Well, that's not what it's for. I'm not there to show you and teach you right now. I'm there to get your attention. And then I can teach you, but it's gonna cost you. You know? It's a very interesting thing looking at how all of these con artists almost universally do the same con. If you walked into anybody's private or anybody's trial class, chances are good you're going to get the same result over and over and over again, no matter where you go. Whether it be jiu-jitsu, boxing, kickboxing, taekwondo, it doesn't matter. The trial class is probably going to be a very similar experience. You're either going to have a private lesson, just one-on-one with the instructor, you're going to have a group class with the instructor, or it's going to be one of those things where if you want to sign up, you're going to have to pay, but I'll let you watch the class, and then I'll let you take a small trial class, right? Which is just tossing you in, which is the dumbest way of doing it, but people do it, right? But typically, you have this one-on-one with the instructor. You have this rapport that's being built. But you're gonna learn the same crap. You're gonna learn a kick, a punch, a block, a break fall, or a submission. Like it's no matter where you go, it's going to be universal. Some of the most basic stuff. If I was going to con you, which we can do an experiment by the way, if you want to see if I can con you right now.
Maybe. Yeah,
Okay.
we can try that.
But if I was going to con you, I wouldn't start off with the chi. I'd start off by introducing you into the concept of it in a way that seems a little bit more palatable. Like for instance, like let me see your hand, right? All right, you ready?
Yep.
Do you feel that?
Yes.
So now what would happen is I would explain that that's chi. I'd be like, all right, so what happened was that little extra sting that you feel at the end, that was blah, blah, blah. And I'd come up with some pseudoscience crap. And then eventually I'd make it so that way it's a little bit more like this. All right, did you feel that? I still moved your hand the exact same way, right? The same distance, all that. And then you'd be like, okay, that makes sense. And then eventually I would be like, do you feel the warmth of my hand?
And that's chi?
Yeah. But I've already programmed you up to a certain point to
just
do something.
Look for chi all the time.
He's got you. He's just gets you nodding your head. If you get people nodding their head to things, you say reasonable thing, reasonable thing, reasonable thing, and start leaking in the crazy, and they're already doing this. And earlier, I'd never thought about this, especially when they're walking in. If I walk into a place, to realize that it's all bullshit would be terrifying for me. Because, like, especially if it's not my place, I walk in, I'm trying this out. If I'm going to be here for an hour, it does not behoove me to figure out that it's bullshit. Because now I have to sit here for an hour through bullshit. Or go through the very scary confrontation of saying, I'm just going to leave. Like, you ever try to leave somewhere early? So it almost like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, I have to go along with it or I'm uncomfortable.
And you just said something that's really important. People don't like to use the word no. It feels very confrontational. Right. We'll do an experiment if you'd like. Yeah. And we can walk through it. And luckily we're in a martial arts school now. And so we can do it as if you were here for a trial class.
All right. I'm really bad at play acting, but we can do that.
It's very easy.
He's also kind of a sociopath too. So he's like, he's not a human.
Look at this kid, he's an idiot. I bet that he can't even fight. Cause my Krav Maga skills could totally kill. Only my school does martial arts right. Blah, blah, blah.